Hey everyone, just making a quick video today to explain why release projects are OP or overpowered. I know a lot of people don't like that word being thrown around, but in some cases they truly are. Before I get into the reasoning why, I just wanted to quickly share my stats that I've been recording over the last year. Back when I started tracking my stats in August of 2023, I realized that I wasn't releasing enough animals compared to the other top players on Board Game Arena. My released animal stat of less than half per game was woeful. It's a stat I worked hard on increasing, and every few months when I checked, my stats continued to go up in released animals. And it's not a surprise to me that between this period of time is when I reached my all-time peak ELO of over 800. Reason number one is that all projects are OP. That sounds stupid to say, but if you look at the stats of Conservation Project Association tasks, the average player does 3.47, the average winner does 3.69, and then top players are doing over 4 per game. The more projects you do, the more chance you have of winning. And that's pretty simple to explain when you look at how you score in Ark Nova. You have two main ways really. The first way is by playing animals, in which you're exchanging money to get appeal, and the second way is by doing projects, in which you're exchanging nothing to get conservation points. All projects are just a way of getting free points. If you don't include the base conservation projects, then the release projects make up half of the remaining projects in the deck. So if you're doing more release projects, you're doing more projects overall, and you're giving yourself a better chance of winning the game. When you do a project, not only are you getting the free points, you're also getting the conservation project reward bonus, which has some truly amazing abilities such as snapping a card, building a 2-size enclosure, or even recurring 5 money income. Reason number 2 is that they give you a large amount of early game shields. Particularly when there are really good rewards on 5 conservation points and 8 conservation points, you're sort of racing the other players to get there first. And the easiest way to get to 5 shields is to release a large animal. Releasing the Duke here ensures that no one can beat me to this university on 5 CP. Reason number 3, and maybe the biggest reason of all, is that you get the enclosure back when you release the animal. The reason this is so good is to do with the math of when you're playing an animal and how it scores. The Duke gives 7 appeal, 1 reputation, and 1 X token, which is roughly 27 money worth. What I paid for the Duke is 17 plus 8 money for the enclosure, which is 25 money worth, so it's basically a fair trade. The math becomes a lot more favourable when you don't have to pay for the enclosure. For example, the next animal that I play, the eagle, I don't have to pay for the enclosure at all because I already have the empty enclosure available and ready to go. Now all of a sudden I'm turning 23 money into 8 appeal and an extra action, which is extremely good value. So by releasing an animal and getting the enclosure back, you're creating value for yourself. Getting the enclosure back has a follow-on effect as well. Now suddenly when your build action is at 5, you may decide that you just don't need to build any more enclosures. In which case, instead of spending money building, you can simply X back the action. So essentially now you're getting the enclosure back and an X token instead of performing your build action. Or in an even better scenario, if you have an animal that can clever back an action, clevering back build is just a way to cycle through your actions more effectively. Going back to my stats, this is a huge way of how you can reduce your overall number of turns. You can see between August of 2023 and my current stats, I'm taking nearly 2 full build actions less per game, but I'm also managing to play more animals than ever per game. Reason number 4 is that release projects can have a huge point ceiling. If you look at all projects, the most you can get is 5 shields, or 15 points. If you look at projects like breeding programs, these are capped at 2 shields and 2 reputation. That's the most you can get out of them. And now if you look at a release project for something like the wolf, you're getting plus 11 points, 1 reputation, and a 4-size enclosure back. That's extremely close to doing a project like species for 5 shields. And you don't need something like 5 different species or 5 Africa icons. You just need to have the wolf and its matching project. And the last point is again related to getting the enclosure back when you release an animal. It's a massive tempo saver in the late game. When you're looking at your opponent's board and determining how quickly they can end the game, a key part of that is seeing how many empty enclosures they have available. If they have 70 money but only a 2-size enclosure, then you're pretty safe for a while because they have to build before they can effectively spend that money. Big releases flip that math on its head. Suddenly your opponent's releasing a cheetah, they're getting a 5-size back, they're getting good points for doing it, and now they have 70 money and room to play their elephant. Suddenly the game can end in 2 turns instead of the 3 or 4 that you were expecting. And just a quick shout out to these guys, it's not only large animals that are good for releasing. Basically any animal you release is going to give you a net positive of some points. The lower the appeal the better, so that makes iconic animals particularly good for releasing. I would say also be careful with which animals you release. If you're releasing a European badger but your opponent already has a wolf played, then they're certainly going to get more value out of the project than you are. Thanks everyone for watching and have a good one.